Welcome to Thriver Talks with Stephanie and Nalie. I'm Nalie.
And I'm Stephanie.
And today we have another Thriver Talks interview featuring Kim Angell to speak about scars, surgery, and loving the skin you're in.
During the midst of COVID-19, Kim just underwent surgery. So we're going to talk about the healing process and learning to love yourself and heal despite what's going on around us with the pandemic. So without further ado,
here's episode 24. Hey, Kim.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, you guys.
Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
All the way from
Vancouver Island, BC, Canada.
Wow.
We are still
the
3
West
hours
Coast.
apart. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Are you really? Okay, so you're on the west coast of Canada.
Yes, so
Okay.
it is, early.
Right. I should know
Earlier.
my geography better. But
It's beautiful. The sun is shining here. It's amazing.
wow.
Opposite of what's happening
Yeah.
here. It's a very
It's so
rain-
dark. Hence the
Oh.
dark background. A lot of rain, a lot of wind, but
Yeah. So the reason why we are super honored to have you on today's podcast and Thriver Talks is because we opened up the question box to our community. And of course, Thriver Talks is for you listening. And we wanted to know what you wanted to hear. And a lot of the responses came up about mastectomies, surgeries, all these details that truthfully, Steph and I didn't really have the answers to because
True.
for one, I did surgery. I had my mastectomy in 2014, which just feels like a lifetime ago. And, you know, I try to leave the past in the past. And I do have YouTube videos of my whole process, but I don't even rewatch them, but it's there to serve. So I was like, you know what? I don't even remember, but we need to find someone who does. And Steph, you had a...
in 2011, which is
Yeah.
so crazy because I had 3 lumpectomies. So one initial lumpectomy to get the cancer out. And then once they had realized that they hadn't gotten all of the cancer cells, they had to go back in twice more to clear the margins. So I had 1 lumpectomy that turned into 3, but I never had a full mastectomy or reconstructive surgery. So I'm definitely not the expert on this topic.
And you, Kim, can we, would you like to share a bit of your story and your journey as a thriver? Because you definitely are one.
Yes.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer almost 4 years ago now. So in a month, it'll be 4 years. And I actually had a lumpectomy to start. And it was about a year after that I ended up having a bilateral mastectomy with latissimus dorsiflap breast reconstruction. And then I've had 4 more surgeries since then to help reconstruct my breasts, and then just some other kind of issues from having the breast reconstruction too. So it's been quite a journey over the last almost 4 years now. But I just had my last surgery. It's been a month since I had my last surgery, a month
Fresh.
today. So yes, exactly. So hopefully this is the last one, but I'm healing well and doing well. And
How has COVID impacted your follow-up treatments, or not treatments, I'm sorry, but like follow-up appointments with your surgeon? Has that been affected, and how have you been coping with that?
So I had my surgery literally on the Friday, and then on the Monday, they had started canceling a lot of the surgeries.
Wow.
Emergent surgeries. So it was, good timing to be able to go in and get this done. And I had a hematoma removed that had popped up all these years after my mastectomy. And so my follow-up, I ended up going into the surgeon's office and kind of wondering how this was even going to play out. So when I went there, they had a waiting room outside of the office. They were only allowing 1 person in the whole area in at a time. And the surgeon came out, grabbed me, and he had full face mask and gloves on, and he pulled me into the side clinic room where it was literally just me and him having contact, no front end people around. Everything was done over the phone in terms of bookings and any kind of other things we had to do. My next appointment's actually by phone with him, so they're just doing as little contact as possible, but thankfully I was still able to go in and see him and just check to see how everything was healing, which was healing good. So basically just the least amount of contact that they can have right now. That's kind of the protocol they're taking. So thankfully it hasn't been affected too much, and I've been thankful just that I haven't had to be around a lot of people either, because I'm a little anxious about that. So
yeah, of course. What were some of the issues that you did encounter? Because for me, I got a total mastectomy. Luckily, I had immediate reconstruction, and then I had the second phase of reconstruction, and then that was it. So I consider myself very blessed and lucky, of course. And I know it wasn't that you didn't have the easiest route. So what happened there?
So, well, starting with my lumpectomy, they had thought that the tumor was a lot smaller than it was, and then when they went to go in, ended up being twice the size. And so, had they known that from the start, it might have been a different recommendation. It was hard to say. They said that the margins were clear, so I went ahead with all my treatments and everything. But it wasn't until I was just about finished my radiation and all my treatments that my oncologist said to me that he got a second opinion on my pathology, and they found that the margins weren't clear, and there were a couple cancer cells that had been cut in half during surgery. So they said that the treatment should have gotten it, but they weren't 100%. So the recommendation was to have a mastectomy, and I opted for bilateral mastectomy. Because I'd already had radiation, I had to do a flap surgery. So I had what was called a latissimus dorsi flap surgery, where they took some skin, muscle, and tissue from my back. And that way they had kind of some healthy tissue to use to kind of reduce the risk of like complications or infections, stuff like that. After I had my surgery done, I did develop a seroma, which is very common. It's kind of like a buildup of fluid in there, and I had that drained, and everything seemed to be healing well. And I did have some surgeries after that to kind of get rid of some of the excess skin, do some fat grafting, try to get it to a place where I felt good again, comfortable with my body. But it was, I think this was 2.5 years post mastectomy, I had this hematoma show up and in my back, just below where the donor site was. And so I named him Henry. Henry hematoma. Sometimes you just need to laugh about it and just, make the best of the situation, right? So, so it's actually out in Toronto. I saw you, Nalie, there. And it was shortly after that I found this hematoma, and it was like a lump on my back. And of course, I'm trying not to kind of like go to all these dark places, what is it? But my surgeon assured me that it was just a buildup of blood essentially in there. Never seen it before, didn't know why after all this time. So we kind of kept draining it and just hoping that it would resolve on its own. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And so I had to go and get surgery done to remove the hematoma a month ago.
And that was the most recent surgery, right?
That was the most recent one. So it was like a sac, and there was like the most bizarre thing. My surgeon he's like, I still have no idea how all this time later it came about, but I like to just say it's, unicorn status. So, I swear we all kind of have that unicorn status moment, like during our treatment.
Only I, this, like all the chances.
This rare side effect, but.
Wow, that's like such like a journey in of itself, even aside from the diagnosis, to have to go through all of these different surgeries and complications. So now after removing that, are you like done with surgery? Like, is that
Should be done with surgery. So fingers crossed that is it. Everything seems to be healing well. I mean, it's still going to be a few more weeks until it's fully healed, but for the most part, it looks like things are going well. So it was just, I had my other surgery a year before this was my last breast surgery, where I was actually just kind of getting more skin removed and getting things to a point, because my I almost had too much skin where my implant was moving around too much, so I had to kind of just get it tighter in there. And I swore after that surgery, I was like, I'm done. I was mentally just I was just so mentally done at that point. I think you just reach that point where you just kind of say enough is enough. So had this all not come about, I don't think I would have gone under the knife again, but then Henry showed up. So
So you speak about, finally reaching a point where you're comfortable with your body. And the reason why, we know thousands of thrivers who've undergone surgery, but why we wanted to interview in particular is because you exude this confidence when it comes to everything you've been through and how you've been sharing it so authentically, and you really show the real results on Instagram, on social media. And so I'm wondering, like, what do you do to get comfortable with your body after everything, all those 4 surgeries you've been through?
One of the biggest things is, and I struggled with this for a long time after all of my surgeries, even after my lumpectomy surgery, was looking in the mirror and just, seeing what had been done and seeing what, my new body in a way. There was a lot of me that have become kind of dissociated from that part of my body. And it just didn't feel like my own anymore in some ways. And so I really had to kind of reconnect with that again. And, going in front of the mirror and having that different mindset and, those positive affirmations, and trying to look and see them in a different light. So, I'm looking at myself now and I just think, wow, like I've been through so much, but also look how far I've come. Like, look how strong I am. Look at, it's incredible sometimes to me to just to think how much my body has done for me, to get through all of this. And so, trying to get those negative thoughts out of my head and, look at what this has done to me, and instead just looking at it as, look how far I've come, right?
It's such a beautiful shift of perspective. Nalie and I are currently co-authoring the Thrivers Guide, and we just wrapped up a chapter that really is totally in alignment with what you just said about, from personal experience, like being on this journey for so long and seeing all of the physical changes that my body has been through in the past 9 years. It's like from the weight gain to the weight loss to the hair thinning and hair loss and losing a breast. I currently have, like totally disproportionate breasts, and I have to wear a prosthesis in my right side. So learning how to really overcome these thoughts of like lack or thinking, betrayal from our bodies, and turning it into, wow, like despite everything I've been through, I'm still here standing, and I'm so grateful for this vessel that has carried me this far. But like you said, it's not just, it's a practice to get there. It's like, you can't just have these thoughts, or maybe you can, but it's like really taking the time to practice self-love and practicing your affirmations, and to get to a place where you can really shift your perspective into the latter, which is gratitude. So
true. Kim, I feel like you're the perfect person to ask this question, because I know a couple of thrivers have asked us, and it's about reconstruction. And is it the question around, is it worth the extra steps? Is it worth the risks? Which is why
I want to know.
actually been through those risks. And the reason why I'm asking this is because Stephanie was also considering having somewhat of a reconstructive plastic surgery done to her missing breast, and due to, you know, our ongoing treatments and our ongoing healing, she was like, how did you feel about that, Steph, when at first you were adamant, and then now it's been over a year now since you've postponed that even thought?
Yeah, actually maybe even like a couple of years.
Yeah.
But it's really wild because, so essentially when I had a recurrence, or the cancer returned in my right breast, as it healed, it kind of took all of my breast tissue with it. So it looks like I had a mastectomy, and I have not. So I really wanted to have another breast, because trying to find how to dress every day and wearing a prosthesis, I mean, bathing suits is like a whole other drama in of its own. So I really was reconsidering breast reconstructive surgery with Dr. Borgen, whom I trust immensely to do it. And I actually had gone for the consultation and everything. And I'm not going to lie, it was like, I literally was like a roadmap. Like, they took a marker, and I don't know the term that you use, but they also recommended taking skin from my back to reconstruct the breast.
Okay.
So it was kind of, you know, when I walked out of the office that day, I wasn't as excited about getting it done again, because I was like, holy crap, like I've already been through so much. This seems like another so much like chapter, you know? So I was kind of deterred because of that. But then something happened on a scan that kind of put it on hold, which may have been like divine intervention in retrospect. But so I was really seriously considering it, but I really was kind of frightened by all of the steps that it was going to take to rebuild a breast. So
so Kim, what would you be your advice to women like Steph who's considering, or women who are just have a bit of fear about, you know, undergoing reconstructive surgery? Is it worth it?
I think one of the biggest things for me was getting all of the information beforehand to know, not just from a medical perspective, but also from people who've actually been through it, and seeing the results as that, you know, knowing the recovery time, you know, knowing what the results are going to look like in the end, just understanding that piece of it. And at the time when I had my lap flap surgery, I didn't really know a lot of people who had actually had that type of surgery as well. So I was kind of going on a lot of like textbook stuff. And I want to say too, it's all very like individual. For me, I wanted to get the reconstruction done. I wanted to have, you know, breasts again, or something there. But not to say, you know, people who've gone flat too, I think it's whatever that you feel at peace with, that you know, really, you know, if that's something where, you know, it's hard, and I hear that a lot of people have had single mastectomies where they have a hard time finding, you know, clothing options, bathing suit options, bras, that sort of thing. And if it's something that you think will bring you that peace of mind again, and that closure, and that, you know, you can just mentally, you just come to a place of peace with your body by getting that done, then I would say, you know, that's just a very personal choice that you just know. I think you just know deep down whether or not it's the right thing to do. And it's hard to say in any way whether, you know, for me, that was my journey. That was the route I decided to take. And I don't regret any of it. I'm glad that I did it. You know, not to say down the road, I wouldn't consider, you know, going flat or what have you, depending on, you know, if I do have any other complications. But right now I'm happy with all the things that I've done, and how much I've come to love my body again through it all. So
I think that's so important. Like what you said is like such a personal choice. And, you know, flat is beautiful. You know, I've learned to embrace one breast. It's just, I have to laugh at myself, but, because it just sounds so silly, but it's been my reality, and I've found ways to make it work. And honestly, I'm at a point now where I really don't even notice it.
Yeah.
Because I've really found ways to work around it, which if anyone listening or watching is struggling with, altered breasts or one breast or, flat chested and you want to have the appearance of breasts, I found a program. Do you guys have Nordstrom in Canada?
We do.
We
You
Yes.
do?
You
So
do. I don't.
Well,
Oh.
Vancouver.
Vancouver
There's not
does.
many around. I think maybe Vancouver's the only
Not
one. I don't
Montreal, unfortunately. It has not come to the French side.
know.
So Nordstrom actually, they don't do a lot of advertising because I guess, they don't really have to. But they have a breast prosthesis program, which I discovered like 5+ years ago, which was a total lifesaver for me. So I used to have to actually take, those like new bra pads where you like stick it on like for strapless dresses. So I used to like have to like build up 2 or 3 of those and stick them on. So it looked like I have another breast. And when I was going in to buy one of these pads this one time, I actually was explaining my situation to a salesperson, and she's like, well, how come you haven't tried our breast prosthesis program? And that was like total life changer. So long story short, they have a whole program for women post mastectomy.
Awesome.
And they actually will fit you for a prosthesis. And so you get a prosthesis, and then they let you pick out bras every like 4 times a year. And then they sew the pockets in the bras so the prosthesis fits. And it's all mostly covered by insurance. I know you guys have different
Cool.
things in Canada, but it was a great resource and a tool that not a lot of people know about because they don't advertise it. So just a solution to anyone looking for one out there.
That's
Speaking
awesome.
of things
Yes.
people don't really know about, since both of you mentioned about getting the skin from your back, what
Mhm.
they did for my reconstruction was use cadaver skin. Did they ever
What's that?
mention that to you?
Not to me. I've heard of it, but very, very little. I haven't heard of many
Yeah.
people who had it done.
I don't even know what that
So-
is.
So basically, as messed up as it sounds, it's like skin from dead people. And I know, and that's what they use to reconstruct, to add
Wow.
extra skin to my reconstructed breast. And that's a very pricey option, but it was luckily covered in Quebec. And so
Wow.
they didn't have to use any skin from my back, and it was an option that was given to me, and that's how they reconstructed my left breast with cadaver skin.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
I
don't
know,
what to
not many
say
people
about
know that.
Wow.
That's
Got-
amazing.
Is that still an option today, or
I
is
think
that
it
like
is.
wow?
I think it is. I have to find the correct medical term for it, but yeah, I have to look back in my notes. But I know that's an option that's offered to us wherever possible.
I need to share something like really weird that happened to me too after having my latissimus dorsi flap surgery. Like, okay, so they're using healthy tissue from your back, and so I had my nipples were taken, everything was taken, and so I have like a circular scar on my breast where the skin was taken from my back, and I had this sensation almost like you would get from your nipples, like being perky or whatever, and it was like these little hairs on my back from my back tissue
Would stand
were
up.
standing up on my breast. It is the weirdest thing.
What?
Maybe just like the nerve endings still under there. Were like
So that's the thing too, is I think that they have come a ways with stuff where when you are getting some of the flap surgeries, that some of the nerves can connect some things, and so sometimes
Right.
you can have a little more feeling in there than without a
Wow.
flap surgery. So yeah, it's
I
pretty
think
incredible.
like the body is so incredible. Like that's one thing
Exactly.
I've like really
It just
learned on
goes
this
to show.
journey. It's just
Yeah.
like how incredible our bodies are, and all the
Exactly.
things they can do.
That's what it's called. Sorry, I just Googled it. It's alloderm. They used alloderm,
Oh, okay.
which is ADM stands for a cellular dermal matrix. And it's like a mesh-like material derived from animals or donated cadaver human skin. And it's used for
Wow.
many types of reconstructive surgery, including breast reconstruction. And that's what they used on my left breast.
Wow.
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 Yep.
There's just so much information out
I know.
there. It's just, yeah. And this is why it's good though to share and just
Exactly.
Even like the three of us here, we have such different, totally different experiences. So.
Yeah.
All right, so Kim, you and I were on a panel about sex, intimacy, and cancer in Toronto for Rethink Breast Cancer. And the only reason why I'm going to throw you under the bus right now with this question is because I know how open you've been when it comes to talking about sex and intimacy, which is a huge part when it comes to loving the skin you're in and feeling sexy. So like, how have your scars and all this body transformation affected just you and feeling sexy and your, of course, your intimate life with your partner?
Yeah. And as I said before, I felt really kind of dissociated with that part of my body for a while, and I had a hard time. I didn't want my partner touching me for a long time. It was uncomfortable. And then it kind of changed to, he wouldn't touch me, but because it wasn't that he didn't want to, but he was scared to. He didn't want to hurt me. He didn't want to kind of burden me with more stuff. So, I think that's why communication is so important during this. Communicating with your partner just to know, because sometimes you're putting stuff into your own head and interpreting things a different way. One of the biggest things though for me was this was after I think my third surgery. I had an opportunity to do a boudoir shoot, and it was seriously one of the most like empowering and like sexy things I got to do, and I just felt so amazing. Like I was kind of unsure going into it. I was still not really at the point where I was comfortable with my body, and then the person I was working with was very just comfortable to work with, and she said, whatever you're comfortable with, like, and I just kind of opened up during it, and I just felt sexy and amazing. And then by the end of it, I was like, I got this, and I'm showing off my scars. And I think that was a really like game changer for me, is having that moment. And I think that's one thing that we still need to do, is still, like do a boudoir shoot, buy yourself some sexy lingerie, like do the things that you would for yourself, give yourself that love, give yourself that opportunity. And so sometimes becoming so dissociated with that part of your body, sometimes it takes away a bit, you kind of don't give it enough attention that you need to. So sometimes you need to give it that attention back and love it again. And whether that is sexy lingerie or a boudoir shoot, or standing in front of a mirror and with your makeup and hair done, and just feeling sexy again.
That actually kind of answers what my next question was going to be. And you already gave some great advice in terms of communication with your partner and doing a sexy photo shoot or doing positive affirmations in front of the mirror. But before we end our interview with you, could you maybe give like your 3 most important tips that you would give to the Thriver community in terms of learning to love the skin that you're in?
3 tips. I would definitely say, the biggest one for me is being able to stand in front of a mirror. As soon as you get those negative thoughts coming in your head, replace them with something different, something uplifting, change it from, like, oh, I don't like the way I look, to, wow, like this, look at my body as a symbol of strength. Look how far I've come. This is amazing. Another one is, just finding things to feel sexy about yourself again, and having that open, honest communication with your partner, or even just with yourself about it. Just having a looking at boudoir shoots or under the white sheets, or going, and even if you're, wearing a prosthetic or you're flat or you have reconstructed breasts, going out and buying yourself a sexy set of lingerie. Why don't, everyone deserves that. It doesn't matter if you've been through breast cancer or not. You still deserve that same amount of self-love before or after all of this. So I think that's really important to give yourself that time and show yourself that love again. I think another one that I really like is sometimes even having those notes in the mirrors. Yes. Where it's little positive affirmations. So when you go into the bathroom mirror, your bedroom mirror, I went into a store actually, Ari or Ari, and I was trying on bikinis one day, and they had all of these self-love notes, and I went in thinking, I'm not going to find a bikini. I'm going to have a hard time finding something that works. And I left there feeling so amazing, just reading through these notes and saying, I am beautiful. Like, I am sexy. I can rock this. So even doing something like that for yourself, having those notes around the house to just reaffirm those things to yourself, I think is just so important and so helpful.
Yeah, I think that one thing that you are doing for us right now is your mere presence exudes confidence, because I could tell you just feel, you have this, what we say in French, joie de vivre, like you're just so grateful to be here, to be alive. And you say it because you speak of such harsh like surgeries, and you're saying it with a big smile from ear to ear. And I feel like you're filled with so much gratitude. And I think that's what personally has gotten me through just all these body transformation and change, is just being grateful for our bodies, which in turn makes us feel like, okay, like we're confident and sexy because we care about our body. So we will go those extra steps, to take those extra steps and make that extra effort into following every tip you said, because of the gratitude that we have for how far our body has come, like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah. Last question. What's your definition of a thriver? What makes you a thriver?
My definition of thriver is just that no matter what life throws at you, that you just make the most of it, and you just enjoy the hell out of life,
Yes.
Like you make the most of it. And that's what I'm learning every day, is no matter what gets thrown at me, I am just going to enjoy the crap out of it. Have a dance party, even post surgery, like even, my little T-Rex arms going, like, I'm still, no matter what is thrown at me, I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to make the most of it. And I think that's so important, no matter what you're going through in life.
Well, we're so grateful that we got to have you on today's episode, and I feel uplifted even ending this interview, and your smile and your energy is very contagious. So we're very grateful to have had you today. So thank you so much. You are indeed a thriver.
Yes, one hell of a thriver. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you so much. So this concludes our interview for today. If you or anyone you know is struggling with self-love and body image issues, or if you are about to go through surgery or just completed surgery, please share this episode with them. We're available on all major podcast platforms, and you can subscribe to our newsletter at www.thethriversguide.com.
And always remember, where there's a thriver's will, there's a thriver's way. We'll talk to you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Bye,
you, Kim.
Bye.